Tansei, Raymond Natigason, Notari Oscar, Egua Nigari Doris, Natatoscan, National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. Bonjour, je m'appelle Raymond, je suis le directeur de recherche et le directeur des archives pour le Centre national pour la vérité et la réconciliation. Hello, my name is Raymond Frogner. I'm the Senior Director of Research and the Head of Archives for the National Center for Truth and Reconciliation. The Bentwood Box is an artistic creation by a Halkomelem artist by the name of Luke Marston. Luke submitted an artistic proposal to the TRC as an artwork that the TRC could use when it was doing its research with Indigenous communities across the country as they investigated the history and legacy of residential schools in Canada. The box is a little over 1 meter in width and just under 1 meter in height. As a traditional Bentwood box, it was made of one piece of cedar. In this case, you'll notice that on the top, the lid has white crosses representing the church denominations that ran many of the residential schools in Canada. On each side of the box is a different region of Indigenous communities that is represented. On the right side is the Inuit, including an image of the midnight sun. On the front is represented West Coast Indigenous peoples. You'll notice in that artwork the ovoid designs, the red color, and also you'll notice that the woman is holding her hand over her mouth and is crying, which is a representation of the loss of language and also the suffering that occurred at the schools. But if you look more closely, you'll also notice that the hand has a pinky finger missing. And Luke did that deliberately to reference his grandmother, who is a survivor of the Cooper Island Residential School. As a young girl, she fell down a flight of stairs and injured her hand, and it never properly healed, and that was Luke's homage to his grandmother for that purpose. And then on the left side of the box, Luke used images of Plains peoples and used as a model, amongst other artists, Norval Morisot. So you'll see on that side there is a Métis figure to represent the Métis peoples. There's also a medicine circle, and the colors representative of Indigenous arts commonly found on the prairies. So on the other side of the box from the front face is a thunderbird, and Luke chose that because it's such a universal symbol across many Indigenous cultures. From Chile all the way up to Alaska, there's images of thunderbirds and traditional cultural images. In the case of Luke's proposal, the idea of old red cedar with its healing properties was a very appropriate symbolic gesture for the work. Also, the box was used in community visits to take in donations or gifts from community. And so it was almost like a kind of recognition of the values of those materials by symbolically placing them in the Bentwood box. So we have a large number of video recordings of community members offering gifts from the community to the TRC and symbolically placing them in the Bentwood box in recognition of their value for Indigenous peoples across the country. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission brought Luke's box with them whenever they visited communities. And when they came to communities would offer gifts, often in recognition of their statements and truths that they were sharing. There was every kind of personal effect that you could think of that symbolized the student or a survivor's experience at the school. And that's one of the wonderful details of the materials, is that they were so wide-ranging, but yet so personal for each individual survivor. And that is one reason also why we look forward to having a new center where we'll have a gallery where we can actually display these gifts from communities in a proper manner. So the box received these gifts in a symbolic manner and became, as I said, the spiritual embodiment of the TRC, and now it is the spiritual embodiment of the NCTR. We use the box in ceremonies on a regular basis. At the changings of the seasons, each season we bring out the box as part of the water ceremony and as a pipe ceremony. We continue to use the box whenever we get significant accessions. So new accessions of value are placed in the box to symbolically recognize the enduring value of those materials. And if there ever is a significant occasion, an elder, knowledge keeper, a valued or honored guest that comes to visit us, we will use the Bentwood Box as part of the ceremony to recognize and welcome that person. Working with survivors' gifts, working with the Bentwood Box has unquestionably changed my worldview, my perspective on the idea of archives, on the notion of social memory, social identity. It's had a lasting impact on my perspective on how I do my job and how I live my life. I think the Bentwood Box has a value for international Indigenous peoples around the world. It's a statement of equality, of the life values of Indigenous peoples in colonial jurisdictions from New Zealand to South Africa, South America, North America. It's a statement of humanity, of our collective values as human beings on this planet, that we all have equal rights, that we all have human dignity, and we should all be treated with respect.